Welcome to the b.reathe Conversations. This series explores how people operate as responsibility, ambition, and pressure grow over time. These are not burnout stories and they're not about fixing anything. They're calm, honest conversations about awareness, capacity, and what helps performance last. Today, I'm joined by Alex. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you, Katie.
Good. So, why don't we start with telling me a little bit about you and what you do and how you're here?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a relatively new property investor based in Bristol, specializing in HMOs and looking to go into blocks of flats. And then my history before that was as a chartered accountant. So a little bit of switch up, but obviously there's a lot of focus on the numbers still.
And you do like the numbers, don't you?
Yeah. So through property entrepreneur, I'm a steal. So I definitely I'm a big fan of just the analytical side, spreadsheets, just getting my head down into the detail.
Definitely. So, what does your week look like at the moment? Because obviously you've transitioned from more of an office corporate sort of thing to maybe on site a little bit more. I know I've seen your social posts that you go out on site and do some visits. So, what does a typical week look like for you compared to what it used to look like?
That question is honestly really hard to capture these days, but I think that's what I love about the role I have now versus what it was. So, obviously, in an accounting role, it was very much 9 to 5. I was an auditor, so that's kind of checking over the financial statements of other businesses. And that I enjoyed kind of the churn of the job itself in terms of there was regularity, consistent tasks that you can kind of jump into. But the amount of variation that I now see on the property investing side is just so much more exciting because kind of dodging the question almost every week is different in the depending what stage of a property investment cycle you're in, you're either outsourcing properties, going on loads of viewings. It might be going to the property and trying to get kind of quotations in, coordinating with lawyers or architects. And then when you're in the midst of it, it's then kind of organizing the professionals in terms of going onto the site, making sure everything's up to spec. Yeah, you'd hope performing to the timelines initially set out, but often never is the case. So having those conversations and working out a compromise to push it along. Um, but yeah, every week is different. Like just last night, it might sound a little bit sad to the average person, but I was having a blast buying all the furniture for the latest project because it's almost like a guilt-free spending spree because you can just like add to cart, add to cart, add to cart. I'll buy that for the room, that for the room, that for the room, and it's not like none of it's wasted because as long as you're not buying like diamond encrusted beds for a rental, like none of it's wasted at the end of the day because spending that little bit more on kind of a hard wearing piece of furniture goes that extra mile.
Yeah.
You get all the joy of it, but then none of the guilt of going, oh, why did I spend that much on doing all of that or whatever it might be?
Yeah, definitely. I completely understand that. As one of my favorite parts about property is that we get to furnish and create and make spaces homely without feeling like you're having to spend loads of money because it's in the budget. So yeah,
Hmm.
that is a fun part. Going back to obviously every week is different, which it sounds like you really enjoy. But how do you navigate that with some sort of routine? Because coming from a very structured background to going almost completely free reign, how do you cope with that? Is it something that you think maybe the novelty will wear off, or do you have structures in place to help you keep some sort of routine?
Yeah, I think honestly, the most important structure I have in my life is my morning routine. Um, haven't quite mastered the going to bed and switching off side of things. I will put my hands up and admit I'm not the perfect example there. But I think something that really flipped a switch for me was getting up at the same time every single day. So for me, there's an alarm at 6:22 and obviously a backup alarm at 6:25. But I also book in these focus mate calls, which are a bit like Zoom calls with someone else for accountability at 6:30, which means I have to get out of bed. Like I've got a cap that's always by the bed to kind of cover the bed head, quickly put on a shirt, trousers. But it means I've got that accountability. I know, oh, I can't I can't lie in because I know Chris, who I always have sessions with, or I don't know, Andrea or whoever it might be, is waiting on the other side of their computer and they don't want to be cursing my name that, oh, where's Alex kind of thing. And then at that point, all of the day kind of flows from there because I'm just feeling so much more on top of things because by the time 9 a.m.'s rolling around, I've already sent out most of my emails for the day. I can kind of clear my hands of things in a sense. And I think it just reframes the day to a degree because instead of being led by it of going, oh, I need to do that, I need to do that, I've got the kind of the bigger chunks out of the way already, which means I just enjoy the work so much more. Like, and I honestly think that's the biggest shift from accounting to what I do now is that everything's personally led in that, oh, I want to do this because it will progress things directly. You're not being told to do it. And the only expectations that are set are by yourself. So it's far more motivating in that you push yourself that little bit further and you're far more realistic of, oh, I worked hard today, but I wasn't able to do that. Whereas I think when those benchmarks are set by someone else externally, I personally had kind of a lot more trouble, not horrifically with my mental health, but would beat myself up a lot more in terms of I haven't lived up to those expectations. Oh, I didn't deliver that in time. And it was often of no benefit because I'd come to a review meeting and I'm like, oh, I'm dreadful. I'm the worst employee ever. And then they'd be like, oh, no, you're doing great. Keep it up. And it's all just been in my head. But because of that, I haven't been having a good time for, say, a couple of weeks on the back end of a certain engagement. Whereas now, because it's all personally led, it's just so much more engaging and more attuned to what I want to do.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, isn't it, that we are so much more afraid of living up to other people's expectations. But if we enjoy it and we set the goals ourselves, we are much more likely to achieve it. But I really like that bit that you mentioned that you have the accountability part at 6:30. So you know that if you didn't have that, you probably wouldn't get up at
Oh,
6:30.
no,
But
definitely not.
you've put the structure in place to make sure that you do is something that actually is very commendable because people will avoid accountability at all costs, whereas you've put yourself in situations to get more accountability. I know you joined the high performer reset, which was the challenge,
Hmm.
and you did that before you were burnt out, which is quite unique. Most people that come on the challenge and the reset, it's because they're at a stage where they really need some help. What made you join at that point when you weren't burnt out, but you were kind of preventing stuff at the same time?
I think it's just the desire to dial in on everything because I'll look at myself and I'm certainly not a worst case scenario. Like you say, there might be examples where people come to the program really burnt out. I wasn't in that instance, but it's all about prevention and trying to just get the most out of myself. So if I think, okay, can I get a version of Alex that is 5% better than the current version that exists? And none of the changes, I would say, alone are transformative. Like, unless I go away and win the lottery and hunky dory, I'm sorted. It's all just like incremental, small pushes in the right direction. Like, it's the classic example of like you go to one gym session and look in the mirror, you're not going to notice a difference. But if you go to the gym every day for a year, you're going to be a completely different person. There's no single gym session that created that change. It's more just the compounding of those small, tiny things.
Yeah. Pound effect is applicable to, I think, all areas of life. And it's the
Yeah.
same with your 6:30 wake up. If you did it once, you just feel groggy because you haven't woken up at 6:30 before. But if you do it consistently every day, your body gets used to it and your body loves predictability as well.
Right.
Our brains are wired to like repeatable, predictable things. So you've definitely got something right there. By being proactive about this, obviously you say that you want to get 5% better, 1% better, whatever percentage, you just want to incrementally get better. By being proactive, what's it actually taught you about yourself?
I would say that there's a lot of low hanging fruit that, again, you can dismiss on an everyday basis of you're not going to see a difference and therefore you push it to the side. But those things compound. Like, I'm really bad at staying hydrated, but again, no perfect example. But now I always have like I don't know if that's a shot, a big kind of 2 liter bottle on my desk as a constant reminder of, okay, I need to, even if I'm not drinking all of that in one day, it's a constant reminder, and I'm outperforming what I was before, where I might sit down and start working, and then I won't get up and get a glass of water for almost the whole day. And I go, oh, wow, it can't be good for me that I'm that dehydrated.
Yeah.
I think it's those things. Like, it's just reframing everything and focusing on the little wins. So even if it's just like having a more diligent skin routine, I'm probably not going to see a difference until like 10 years down the line when other people are slightly more wrinklier than me. And then I'm patting myself on the back and being like, I'm glad I did that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's very much like your exercise and strength and conditioning and stuff like that when you're in your 20s and 30s. It makes you look aesthetically better at that age. But the real results come from years down the line when you can pick up your grandchildren and run around the garden and maybe beat your kids at an exercise. I keep seeing videos on that
Put you in
recently.
their
And I'm like,
place.
yeah, if I ever have
Ram
kids,
still
I've
has it.
got to win. Yeah. So yeah, I keep seeing videos on that, and I'm like, yeah, if I ever have children, there's no way that they're going to win. Or win. But that really motivates a lot of people. Actually, the fact that when they get older, they still want to be mobile.
Um,
You see it a lot actually with the older generations. But there is a lady in my gym. She must be in her 70s or 80s. She's still there. She's not lifting heavy, but she's just moving. And she
yeah.
turns up, and it's 6:30 in the morning. She turns up, she does what she needs, and she just looks so mobile for her age. And I've seen people the same age who don't look like that. So it does make a massive difference just being consistent with these things. What would you say stood out the most for you while you completed the challenge? Obviously, a lot of the stuff that we speak about is quite simple stuff, and it is the compound effect. It's not necessarily going to make a difference right now, but the water bottle example is a perfect example. I'm someone that has to have a water bottle at my desk as well. So what would you say stood out the most, but was maybe the simplest change?
I think it's simply reprioritizing habits as, well, a priority rather than kind of an option. And I've definitely seen a more tangible difference in trying to tie rewards to it. So kind of part as profit entrepreneur, I'm going, okay, here are my habits for the year. If I get, say, 80% on average across the year every single day, I'll reward myself with like a really nice holiday that I want. And suddenly it's just such a flip in that I'm not beating myself up too much if I'm slipping behind it, but it's reframed in my mind of being like, this is a priority. Like, I need to focus on this. Like, I've let it slack a little bit, but I want the end result. And I think it's made it so much more tangible in my mind in how important they are to me, versus it's so easy otherwise to be like, well, I'm not going to see a difference tomorrow. I'll put off the gym. I'll put off the gym. And then suddenly you look back at kind of your fitness tracker or whatever it might be. And you're like, I've gone twice in the last 3 months. And it just, because time flies naturally, you
Yeah,
don't notice it on a week by week basis.
absolutely.
So it's just reprioritizing it, just bringing it to the forefront, going, okay, this does need to be done. Like, it is on the to-do list almost.
Yeah. Is there anything that surprised you about the stuff that you learn, or maybe the stuff that you already did or didn't do? Anything that stood out?
I think just the general knowledge. Obviously, you're very knowledgeable on all the topics that you teach, naturally. And I think just having that conversation and having that brought back to the surface and spoken back to me of going, this is why sleep's so important. Like, research backed this, because like people that get, I don't know, I think it was 7 to 9 hours or 7 to 8 hours sleep are more efficient or more productive by 10%. And again, if you think you could be more productive by 10%, a margin of 10% by just going to sleep, which generally everyone likes being asleep. Like people look forward to going to bed. It just seems like such an easy win, but having it kind of said back to you, it just brings to mind like, okay, this isn't necessarily an option. Like for the sake of the business and for the sake of myself, I need to go to sleep earlier, because if it means I'm going to be 10% more productive, I'm going to see that time back anyway. I'm going to
Yeah.
feel happier in myself because not only am I more productive, I'm also well rested and not grumpy and grouchy and wanted to go to bed every second. Um, so there were probably so many nuggets, but little bits like that where it's just backed by research, where it's not just kind of a wife's tale of, oh, you should go to sleep this amount, it's good for you. It's going, no, this is proven, this is in stone. If you do this, you will see this improvement on average across a pool of kind of however many participants were in the test sample. And it just takes any doubt out of your mind. It just goes, this is the right thing to do. Therefore, I should work towards achieving it.
Yeah, I'm definitely someone who likes science-backed stuff. And I think that when we understand the reason that things work, we tend to apply it better in our lives. And a perfect example is gratitude. I think I remember at the start of the reset, I always say to people, you need to be doing your daily gratitude. And when I first got told about gratitude, I was like, oh, it's not that important. Like, it's like, why do I want to write 3 things that I'm grateful for every day? But when I started understanding the science behind it and that it actually does rewire how you think and rewires your brain chemistry, I was like, oh, this actually works. Like, it isn't just something that someone said that it's worked for them. It's actually proven. And I think that makes a big difference to actually performing and completing the habits, because they are things that can easily slip. Like you said, with sleep, it's so easy to sit on your phone or watch an extra episode or just stay in bed past your alarm. There's so many things that's so easy to ignore or just completely put to the side because they don't seem that important on the surface. But when you actually look into it a bit more, it makes a lot of sense as to why all of the high performers that have done really well prioritize this sort of stuff over anything. Have you changed anything since? Is there anything that you've added in or taken away or altered?
Well, I think this is where I'm probably a bad example in terms of the gratitude journaling, in that I think because I'm generally quite a positive person. Luckily where I am in life. Sorry, my cat's just climbing a cupboard. Excuse that. Because I'm generally like, yeah, a positive person, and I'm in a good mental state currently. Um, I think I picked and chose what I thought would have the biggest impact. And yeah, like I was saying, get that low hanging fruit in terms of, okay, if I can bump it up 50% of what I'm doing right now, like, why not? So like things like the hydration, skincare. I don't know if you can tell already, probably not. It's only been a month or so, but
Looking
um,
very glowing.
glowing, yeah. And then like, yeah, oral care, just making sure to floss, like following the hygienist recommendation rather than, yeah, always doing catch up of going, oh, I should floss. I know I should floss, but I don't. I'll do it once a week or whatever it might be. So I definitely think there has been a step change, but I know that it's not going to come about from 0 to 100. It's going to be, okay, I'm not going to put so much pressure on myself and say I need to drink 3 liters of water. It's just building that framework around me where it's taking down the barriers. So a bit like the accountability with the focus mate, it takes away that decision element because I know I need to be on the focus mate. Otherwise I'm annoying someone else who's across the world in Australia in the middle of the day or whatever it might be. Um, Again, water on the desk, trying to, like what you were saying, I think in your teachings, which was linking habits. So it might be that like as a routine after I have a shower, I'll then weigh myself and then I start tracking my weight, and then that compounds because I'm then seeing the progress in the gym a little bit more. And then it's all kind of an interlinking web, in that when you see the results of one habit, it motivates you a bit more to push on to the next. And once you've nailed one habit, say doing my skincare, it only takes 30 seconds more to then floss afterwards or floss before and then brush my teeth, the barriers just seem a lot lower to enter into a new habit when you've already got one rigidly set. So that's why I'd probably go back to what I was saying at the very beginning. In the core shift in myself was introducing that 6:30 a.m. start, and everything else is kind of built around that because that's just the first movement of the day. Having that in the diary is a non-negotiable, and then everything feeds off that. If it's like after that, I'll try and do shower by 9, whatever it might be, get out the door by 9:30, go for a walk if I can, and then it's just the cascade from that point.
Yeah, and I think that what you've mentioned there, habit stacking, is super, super important. I think one of the things that I've noticed most, and I've done it myself before as well, and it's when we all of a sudden we're like, okay, something needs to change. I'm not feeling great. I need to get my things in order. I need to start going to the gym, reading my books, drinking more. And we try and do everything at once. And we don't stack it onto anything. We don't link it to anything that we're already doing. And after a week and a half, everything crumbles and we're not doing any of it again. So one of the things with habit stacking is you do those really small increments, but they actually work. And it is, like you said, it's so easy to add something that takes 30 seconds onto something that you're already doing anyway. Whereas if you try and just add it in the middle of the day at a random point that you've never done something at that time of day, it makes it so much harder. But also doing them one by one. So rather than trying to do a million things at once, is just perfecting one habit at a time, which you've mastered really well. You never went in trying to overwhelm yourself and do like 10 different things at once, which a lot of people fall into that trap. You did go in with the intention of just choosing the things that are going to have the highest impact and the low-hanging fruit. And you've called it the low-hanging fruit, even though that kind of makes it sound like what's the word? Like you've gone for the easy option. That is exactly what you should be doing. And some people will be listening thinking, oh, why wouldn't he go for something that's like maybe a little bit more difficult, give himself a challenge? But the whole point in building habits is to make them so easy that you can't fail. And
Yeah.
you've done that really, really well. And I noticed it through the challenge that you were being very selective with what you picked and you were doing it on purpose. You weren't just kind of throwing yourself at it and going, oh, I'm going to do that because Katie's told me to do it. You were like, I get it, but it's not for me right now. I'm going to choose something that works better for me at this moment. And that's a really, really important skill to have when you're building habits. So yeah, I'm really happy to have you on here because you have done really well. You haven't mastered everything, but neither have I. No one has, and I don't think anyone ever will. It's just about doing the small things, and life changes as well. So you never know really, depending on what stage of life that you're at, things are going to change. Like if I wake up at 9 a.m, I don't, but if I did, if I had kids, that's probably not going to last very long. I'm going to have to start doing that earlier. So things change as life progresses. If there's people listening that are obviously going to think that they're going to address this stuff when it goes wrong or when they start feeling burnt out, you've addressed it early rather than waiting till that point. What would you say to them? What would you say to those people who are waiting for things to get worse before they do something? What advice would you give them?
I think, like, assuming that the audience might be a bit more business focused as well, I don't know why you'd wait until, like, take on that level of risk and wait until it gets to a tipping point. Like, why not address it earlier? I know it's a lot of people will be motivated by a sense of urgency and the here and now, but the ask isn't too great because, like I'm saying, it's small habits. It's not like I'm asking you to do that mountain of bookkeeping that might be sitting on your desk for the last 3 months. It's small wins that you can just start chipping away at because, like you say, you don't want to be turning your life upside down and going, I'm going to reinvent myself, Alex 2.0. Here are 20 habits I'm going to integrate into my daily life. I don't have time for anything else. It's just making that movement in the right direction. Kind of, I think there's some adage about like a sailor turning turning the boat 1 degree, but it means you end up in a whole different like location at the end of the day because you've traveled such a long distance. So if you just integrate a small habit that might direct you away from a burnout in the future, why not do it? It's 30 seconds of your time just dedicating towards, say, it's looking at what focus mate is, or working out if you can partner up with someone else for accountability and just talk to them every week about how you're doing with your habits. Because I think almost a lot of the value comes from talking to other people and associating myself with other people that are also trying to improve themselves and dial in on their habits. Because I know kind of comparison is the thief of joy and all that, but when I see people on Instagram, whatever it might be, waking up at 6:30 a.m., going to the gym, I more perceive it as a challenge, because I don't think anyone in the world, everyone has their specialities, but no one's better than anyone else naturally. So I take it as a challenge of, well, if they're managing that, if they're achieving that, why can't I? Like, it's in me somewhere. So I just have to push myself to get to that point. So I think some of the value is almost just being part of the community as a whole, and talking your habits through and reprioritizing them, and yeah, just slowly changing yourself that 1%, to prevent a future burnout, whatever it might be. Even if it's not preventing a future burnout, it doesn't have to be so extreme. It could just be having a greater satisfaction in who you are as a person. Like,
Yeah.
if you look back at the version of yourself who existed 5 years ago, and or who you want to be in 5 years' time, would you prefer that person to be someone who gets up on time, goes to bed regularly at a good time, exercises? Like, most people, I think, would say yes to those things. So why not make some kind of concerted effort to move the dial in that direction? Like, doesn't it have to be signing up to an expensive PT every week? Like, I've heard examples where when people have tried to get into the habit of going to the gym, almost for the first month, all they've done is just gone to the gym, gone through the door, and then turned around and come back, almost as proof to themselves that they can do that. They can integrate it into their day. It's not a case of, oh, I don't have time, because you're there, and then building up from that point of, well, I'm already here, I might as well do a couple of sets of whatever, and then just compounding it from there. Before you know it, you'll have gotten used to going to the gym, you'll be comfortable going to the gym, and then you're actually enjoying going to the gym, because you know you get kind of that rush of hormones, dopamine release, whatever it might be, and you're actually prioritizing it as part of your day. You're like, no, I need this because I'll feel so much better. It'll make me sleep better. Like, I won't be as stressed. I'll bring kind of my best self for my family, my friends, whatever it might be. Um, so I felt like I went on a little bit there, but it's just those small things that then compound. Like, it's just those 1% at the end of the day.
Yeah, it does make a massive difference. You mentioned a few things in there. The first one, obviously, the people that you're around. And it's not necessarily comparison, I don't think, but they do say that you become like the top 5 people that you hang around. So it
Yeah.
is important that you're surrounding yourself with the right people, especially if you do want to become a better person. I have like a bit of a rule for myself. Like, if I'm paying to be in a room, because I'm happy to pay for mentors, pay for coaching, as long as those people are better than me, because I want to become more like them, and that's why I'm hanging around them. And another one, like the gym, people go into the gym, but maybe not working out, but just getting used to that routine. If I really, really don't want to go, all I have to do is turn up and do the first 5 minutes of the workout. Usually, after you've done the first 5 minutes, you want to carry on anyway, because the hardest bit is actually getting to the gym. But if I do the first 5 minutes and I still don't want to be there, then I take that as a signal from my body that it needs a rest. And I think that
Yeah.
that was one of the biggest differentiators for me with going to the gym, specifically for anyone that does want to start exercise, was there are still ways that you can listen to your body without pushing it, but turning up when you need to. And after the first 5 minutes, I think I've only ever actually left the gym in the last 3 years with doing this rule. I've only ever left the gym twice. And that was because I just knew that it wasn't the right day. But I still performed the habit because I knew that I needed to do that to reassure myself as well. We very often can decide not to push our body sometimes when it does need a little bit of pushing. It's important that we listen to our body, but equally we do the things and give it the challenges to release the endorphins, get the dopamine going, and build the connections as well with people, which is your oxytocin, which is super, super important. But it has been really, really good to talk to you. Have you got any final top tips for someone that is listening today?
Oh, final top tips. I'd probably just say make it as easy as possible. Like remove those barriers if it's kind of putting a glass of water on your desk, booking in like a session or some accountability. Equally going to the gym, do a routine that you really enjoy rather than trying to go for kind of the most optimum thing of like, I don't know, doing legs back one day and chest legs the other day, whatever it might be. That's not really a great routine, me saying that out loud, but because like as soon as it's easy and enjoyable, everything will just come from that point. Whereas if you make it too challenging, it will just fall apart and you're always kind of catching yourself. And at the end of the day, that's like giving a quote from Daniel Hill, like it's all a game. Like just
Yeah,
enjoy it at the end of the day. Don't put the nth degree of pressure on yourself. Just look to make those small wins and improve yourself.
definitely. I think that is a great way to end the conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective so openly. Conversations like this exist to normalize experiences that many people go through quietly as life and responsibility grow. So, if anything that we've spoken about feels familiar, that doesn't mean that something is wrong. It just means that you're starting to pay attention. You can find more conversations like this through Breathe. And if you want to understand how you're currently operating, you can take the scorecard at www.breatheblueprint.com. And Alex, if people want to reach out to you, maybe learn more about your property business or more about you as a person, how can they get in contact?
Yeah, of course. And firstly, thank you for having me on this. Cool. Really appreciate it. Yeah, if anyone wants to give me a follow on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, yeah, my name's Alexander Burgess, and my handles are Eumastus Properties. A tricky one to spell, so it's EUMASTAS Properties. Yeah, I hope to connect with some of you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Katie. Appreciate it.